So Dottie dropped off and collected the bubble. First thing you will notice is there's no engine, but we have a perfect engine bay to work back into. Paintwork has come out stunning, really happy with that. I just need to pull my finger out, put it all back together again. No idea whether you can hear me because it's very, very windy. Well, I'm back on the homestead. It's been a very long day, but quite a satisfying one in many ways. Number one is Dottie has gone. Number two is this is back, and I'm really looking forward to having it back because it's a car I'm working on for me, which just is a nicer feeling altogether, really. The bonnet isn't with the car because there was a couple of little bits that I wanted changed slightly, so they've kept the bonnet. They're going to repaint that. I'm just out here this evening, not doing anything constructive, just playing really. These front bumpers have the bright inserts. The originals were all tarnished and they're a pain in the proverbial to remove without breaking all the little clips, so they didn't survive. I managed to buy a brand new pair which came from Poland, I think, or Eastern Europe anyway. I still don't have the one for the rear, which is really annoying because I want a new one and I'm not too sure whether I'm actually going to be able to find one. I might have to get a used one and then put silver tape on it to make it look right. But anyway, the front ones are here and they fit. I just haven't actually clipped them in yet, but they will go. Try not to scratch the paint, something like that. And then I also have brand new old stock genuine MG Rover headlight and indicator unit. I've got them brand new for both sides, and they're the electric adjustment ones as well, because this being an IS, which is the plush model, you had adjustable headlights here with a little motor on each of the headlamp units, so that's good. I need to go through the rest of the car and work out what I have and what I don't have. All of the brake lines, the fuel tank, everything was stripped off the underside to do all of the underbody sealing, so that all needs to be reinstated. The brake lines actually look really good. There's a fuel line as well, still got the zinc passivate on it, all perfect. That presumably was for the carbon canister, which somebody did light up. That's the master cylinder, but I've got one from a BRM coming, which is more suited to the larger brakes that I'm going to be fitting. And then down here I have my 220 turbo radiator and fans, and what I want to do is just work out how that would originally have fitted in the car and whether my new front mount intercooler is going to be compatible with that. So I'll lift that in, find the front mount and see whether it can all fit together behind the front bumper. Right, on with the project. The car is now back from the body shop. I think I did a couple of videos of when it first landed. I'm now in the process of gutting the inside. I've taken out all of the bits and pieces that came back from the body shop. They were bits and pieces of trim, but also lots of the engine parts that Mike didn't need for his, and the drive shafts and bits and pieces like that. So we have an interesting collection of mostly landfill, some good bits, but most of it's crap. And I'm in the process of really taking stock and working out what the next logical step is. One thing I always knew I needed to change was the carpet, because there's a couple of tears in it, which you wouldn't really notice when the seats are in, but it seems pointless putting the car back together to such an extent only to have things like those crappy tears in the carpet. So that's a grey carpet from a Rover 25, so it has a slightly different foot pad area, but other than that it's identical. I couldn't find a Rover 200 one because they just don't make them anymore, and they're not even in breakers yards. So I'm in the process of taking out the centre console so I can get the rest of the carpet up, and then I will be checking for final bits of rust from inside, and then cleaning it really before I then do some preventative cavity wax and red oxide into places that I couldn't really get before, or didn't have time to get to before I went to the body shop. Carpet is out. What's surprising is that even though this car has been, well, what was it? In my garage, which, you know, it's not the driest, but it's pretty much dry, for several months. It's then been in the body shop for months and months. The first time it was in the wet was last night, and yet in the floor and that carpet underneath was still wet. So it's just, I think the fact it's got so much of this foam stuff, it just soaked it up and then it could never get out. So yeah, good to have that one out. That one is dry, so once I've done all my rust treatment, should be good to go. The next job really is to get that sunroof panel down. It probably looks okay from here, but when you look close, you got some fairly well developed rust in there, and there's no point keeping it. So I have over here a really decent second-hand one. The seal is just about okay, but the metal underneath in a couple of places is a bit frilly. So what I'm going to do is take the seal off, clean it all up, de-rust it, and then bond the seal back on, and put the whole assembly in the car. Well, that's annoying. What looked to be a really good sunroof is not quite as good as I thought it was, and right now I'm trying to work out whether I want to proceed with this one or go shopping again. Most of the lip is there, it's just one bit here it's missing. It's actually fractured off or rusted away, and same again up there. So I'm going to get on the internet, reassure myself whether or not these are the same as on an MG ZR, and if I can find a low mileage ZR or a non-rusty one, I think I'd better do that. Just been inside and been doing some checking. You can't seem to buy them anymore, and anything that you can get second hand is worse than this. People are quite honest about putting up photos of the ones they've got for sale, and they're a lot worse. So with that in mind, I think what I shall do is just clean the hell out of this, de-rust it as best I can. This seal, remarkably, is actually really good, so I'm going to clean the remainder of the silicone off that, and then buy some special roof seal stuff and bond this back on once the paint has gone off. I think what I'm going to do is mix up some Jotun 87, because I need some of that anyway to paint the fuel tank, and that will be the best thing for gobbing on there to prevent it from rusting again. So yeah, fun. Well, that didn't take too long with the wire brush and the drill, but it's pretty ugly, I'll tell you that. Unfortunately, that's just what's going to go back in the car for the moment, and long term I'll have to keep an eye out. Whatever sealer is on there, it feels like a kind of silicone, so my hands feel slippery at the moment. There's no way that my rust killer is going to stick to that metal or do its job properly if I don't get that off. So I'm going to go find some panel wipe, degrease all of that, and then paint it with a Hydrate 80. Figured I'd give it a final pass with a Dremel type tool with a die grinder bit in the end. Just means I can get in that channel and break through the surface of the rust a bit more. So you can see quite a lot more aggressive with the wire brush. So I'll keep doing that for a while to see that get on. Well, that was altogether more fiddly and irritating than I had anticipated, but first coat of Hydrate 80 is on. I'm going to go have some dinner. It's the next morning. I've just put another coat of the Hydrate 80 all the way around the lip. I masked it up this time so it's a bit neater. Now I'm with the seal, and I'm just picking out all the old sealer. It's funny stuff. It's a bit like silicone. It doesn't have a very good bond. It comes off really easily. It's quite stretchy and springy. I'm not making a very good job of showing you, but it's basically got a very weak bond like a silicone. It feels greasy to the touch like a silicone. It just happens to be black. I'm trying to think what's best to use when I put it back together. I can either use black tiger seal, which is a polyurethane one, which will make a permanent seal. Permanent bond rather, or I can use butyl sealer, which is like a non-setting, non-skinning stuff. I don't know, I'll have to think about that and see what I come up with. And it was all going so well. Took the sunroof cartridge out and found a little bit of rust up in that corner, so I started cleaning it up, and the scraper went straight through. So, where is it? Up there. You can now see daylight through that hole. And this is a problem because that is right in the roof rail there. Of course, which has all been painted. So, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to repair that without ruining the paint. So I don't really know what to do. Bummer. Kind of sacrilege doing this to a brand new paint job, but I haven't really got a choice. I'm not leaving rust like that in there because it's just going to get really bad. So I am going to have to fix it somehow. I've just excavated a little bit more to find out how bad the rot is, and basically it's from there to there. It's just where the sunroof frame and the drain channel goes, which is probably why it wasn't spotted. Two problems. Access is going to be dreadful. Even just chopping it out clean is going to be difficult. Then we've got all the problems of managing the heat so as not to damage the paint on the top. I'm really not looking forward to this. Well, I still have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do precisely, but for the moment all I've done is masked off as best I can. I've got thicker tape up here to try and take some of the impact away. Then under there, slid in from the top, I've actually got a sponge soaked in water. My first aim is to just try and snot some of these up and see what happens. I'm fully expecting it to just blow massive holes. This bit, I don't know, probably needs to be cut and then a piece folded up and welded in there, but how the hell I'm going to do that without fucking the paint, I have no idea. But anyway, got to get the welder, snot those in, see what happens, hope it don't burn the paint off. If it does burn off, then I'm just going to have to get the roof repainted again. I've been trying to weld it and I just cannot get in there. I haven't burnt the paint yet, which is a result, but I know if I keep going down this approach I will, so I'm going to quit while I'm ahead, and I think I'm just going to have to fill it with seam sealer after I've rust treated it and hope for the best. Right, I did have an attempt at welding it, but that didn't go very well at all, and it was just going to get extremely messy. So I tried to snot in those bits, which I just about could, but there's absolutely no way I can get decent access with my gun, or sorry, the end of the welder, to direct the weld exactly where I need it. Really, this all wants cutting out and fabricating again. But I didn't spot it before it went to the body shop, and apparently neither did the body shop, so I'm now left with beautiful paint here and here and a mess in the middle. I only have one real option now left, which is to rust treat it and then fill it with bridging filler and hope for the best. Lame. Well, I'm really having a shitty day. It's raining on a day it's not supposed to be raining, and I've got no sunroof in the car and all of the stuff outside over there, but I'm hoping the rain will stop soon because I can't be bothered to move it all. I have just cleaned up the inside of the car, put more Hydrate 80 on bits and pieces. It might look dramatic having done that all the way down there and all the way along there. That's not actually rust, that's grindings left over from my work and whoever put the wings on the first time round. So it's just to kill off rust that's growing on the grindings, really. I've treated that bit up in there that you can actually see daylight through the holes, but I haven't really got any other solution other than to do that, fill it with bridging filler and hope it doesn't rust. In other news, I've just done a dummy run refitting the seal onto the sunroof cartridge, or the sunroof glass, with no sealer in there. It sits really nice and flat, which is good. I'm slightly still in two minds about what kind of sealer to put on there, if I put anything at all. Looking at this roof, which is the one that came off the car, which is really bad, there's no evidence that there was ever any sealer in it. It's all dry, so that's probably why they rot. And it might be that this one either came out of a later car and they did seal the later cars, or somebody did it DIY style. I definitely think it needs something, so I'm going to go have another look in the garage and see what I've got. Decided to bite the bullet and use some butyl sealer. I was going to use black tiger seal, but it sets permanently and I don't know whether this is going to work or not. So by using some butyl, which is they call it permanently plastic, basically means it never actually sets. It's not like RTV or polyurethane sealer or silicone. It will always stay slightly gooey, which is ideal for stopping leaks. It also means that where this might not be sitting perfectly correctly, I can probably manipulate it and hold it down, and it should, you know, stay in shape. So I'm going to whip that seal off, put a bead of this round, and then hopefully feed that back on, and it all looks beautiful. I doubt it will, but we'll give it a go anyway. Well, it's on there. It's a messy, horrible job, and there's lots of over squidge, as I'm calling it. Just going around with some panel wipe now to clean off the excess, and then I'm going to shove it back in the car. Number one, because it's raining still. Number two, because when this is crushed into the roof aperture, it'll help it really squeeze in there and hold the seal in shape until the butyl begins to set. As I said, it never actually fully sets, but it'll go a little bit harder than it is currently. Sunroof is in. It will need some final adjustment. I've just boshed that whole cartridge in there. It needs to come up at the front, go down at the back. But importantly, what I am happy with is that the seal is on there in the right place, and hopefully will remain in the right place. Again, it'll need some fettling, stuff like that, but it's better than it was and it shouldn't leak. Right, just mixed myself up some bodging filler, so it's the fiberglass reinforced stuff, and I cannot believe I'm doing this to a basically newly painted car, but I'm going to tosh a bit in there now that the red oxide and everything has gone off, and my rust killer, and hopefully we'll end up with something that's, well, a bit of a bodge, but it is what it is. Utter bodge, but I haven't really got any option at the moment. Sunroof seems to be leak free, and that's about all I can say about today. It's not been a good day. This should have been fun, but it is not fun. Kind of just see, or I can see, how much came through. I also forgot to reconnect the drain plugs for the sunroof, so now the back of the car is full of water again. Fantastic. Okay, just put well, I sanded back the bodging filler, the fiberglass crap, and then I stuck in some U-Pole dolphin glaze. So not a lot else to say really. That's in there, gonna wait for it to go off, and then I think I'm gonna clean both rails out properly, mask them off and fill them with Jotun 87, which is that black epoxy stuff which is incredibly rust resistant, waterproof. I mean, the problem is that there's still rust in there that I can't get to. Although I attacked it with a Dremel in the end to really break it open, there's going to be stuff in there I can't get to unless I chop the roof up. But I can't really do that, so it is what it is. It's just going to have to be a car that's kept in a garage, I think, which is not what I wanted, but kind of the way it's going to be. It's a few hours later. It's got some Dolphin U-Pole thin filler on top. Still pissing me off, but I really have no option. I'm not taking a car back up north, and I'm not going to be able to fix that properly without ruining all the paint and all the hard work at the body shop. Next job, really, I wanted to put some Jotun epoxy in that roof channel, but you have to mix up quite a bit at any one time. So if I'm going to paint epoxy in there, I might as well paint some other stuff. And one of the first things I want back in the car is the fuel tank. So I've cleaned off the worst of the rust. It's actually a really good tank, which surprised me. I know that they do go same as any sort of steel tank does. It's particularly bad around the filler ports, but I've cleaned all that off. There's no holes, there's not even a hint of a hole. I could have just toshed black paint straight over the top, but I didn't. I've excavated it. So I'll rust protect all of that, and then that can be painted in epoxy. And then in here, another semi-pleasant surprise is that the straps to hold the tank in are actually pretty good. So they've been rubbed down. Again, I'll treat them and then epoxy them, and then they'll be ready to go in the car. So while that does its stuff, dries off, I think it pretty much already has. It's all turned black, so I'm calling that treated. I've mixed up some black Jotomastic 87 epoxy. Just got to wait for that to go off a little bit with its catalyst, and then I can paint it on. And what I've done is masked off both gutter rails all the way through. I haven't keyed it, but I have degreased it, and then I'll just tosh a load of that on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have a flare up in a few months' time. So that's the plan anyway. I'm going to try and be as super careful as I can because I don't want to spill this. Righty ho, it's the end of the day. Quite a sort of weird day. One step forward, two steps back. Fuel tank is looking lovely. Done all that. The hangers are up there. I've given a few bits and pieces in and around the body shell a coat of epoxy as well, along that edge, just where there had been those bits I'd done in red oxide, just to make it look good. There was a bit needed doing up there where the corner rail came round. Up here, I think this is going to be fine now. That's all absolutely drowned in black epoxy, and when the black trim strips are inserted, black on black, you're never going to see it because that whole thing gets filled with these bad boys. So that's all okay. I've also ended up with some black epoxy left over, so I started doing the fuel tank for the Dotty. I've only done the top half because I ran out of paint, but at least stops me wasting the paint and gets me a little bit further on with Dotty as well, even though that's at the body shop now. Tomorrow, hopefully, bushings and things should arrive so that I can get the car off the trailer. I'm going to dinite troll it or dinitrol, whatever, rust proof it, then get it off the trailer, put the carpet in, jack the front up, pull the subframes and all the front suspension and steering rack out, and then juggle around and start putting it back together again. Today really is a day to forget. So I had to take a radiator off a wall to have that room plastered. Radiator has been stood up outside there for I don't know how long, 24, 48 hours or something. It has now just decided on a day where there's basically truffle wind to blow over, karate chop the door on my van and smash off my side trim. Brilliant.